Hi all, thank you for attending this session on Azure Sentinel from an analyst's perspective. I'm Trent. I'm a senior cloud security advocate for Microsoft. I am also a global subject matter expert for Azure Sentinel. I've worked with this product every day for over 2 years. I've helped over 200 customers deploy and manage Azure Sentinel and use it to effectively and efficiently monitor their entire environment, which is on-prem, in Azure, and in other cloud providers, and help them monitor their potential for those potential threats and exposures. Okay, so I'm so happy for the opportunity to talk today about my favorite topic. I hope you get all from this that you were hoping to get. Unfortunately, due to a family emergency, I'm not able to deliver this talk live, so I want to ensure that you can still get the value of asking your questions. Please reach out to me over Twitter. You can see that there, Twitter at @RodTrent, with any questions that you might have, or connect with the conference organizers to get in touch with me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so our discussion today is an example and overview of the workflow as Azure Sentinel defines it by the way of the technologies, features, and options that are built into the product. So the product itself is the template for our discussion today. But understand that the features the product provides can be utilized to follow a very standard workflow for any security operations center or security team. In our case, with Azure Sentinel, we'll also have the automation and remediation component that's built into the product. It's not extra, it's not an add-on, but it's part of the product. Your workflow may look slightly different depending on your team size, the skill sets of your team members, politics, of all things, regulatory requirements, all sorts of things that go into the makeup of your organization's personality. But consider that this is a good base workflow to either start from or to implement. Okay, this is a good recommendation, particularly if you don't have a workflow designed and implemented already. And for those that have a daily task list or workflow already, understand that Azure Sentinel can accommodate your existing processes. We make it extremely easy to stand up and configure Azure Sentinel. Most customers can get that done in 30 minutes or less, mostly a lot less. Okay, but it's the next steps that are important to capture. How does this fit into my daily workload or my daily task list? This session today will help you hopefully figure that out. All right, so here we'll talk about how an analyst might use Azure Sentinel coming into work every single morning. What steps do they need to take for that perceived operation? All right. So our first step is triage. This is the phase where we make a choice or a decision about if it's needed to react to an incident. Next is the investigation phase. This phase is used to get to the root cause, determine how you might remediate, and possibly how to handle subsequent occurrences. The response phase is where we take our decision and actually respond to the incident. Okay? And then ultimately, after completing the process, we need to evolve the intelligence of our operations by considering how to handle false positives. Okay? How do we react to those items that we may not need to review in the future? We first need to identify what those are and then determine what to do with them. All in an effort to eliminate noise from the system so we can always be able to focus on those pieces that are critical to securing the environment. Ultimately, without capturing trusted resources, right? Whitelisted accounts, our CEO, whoever that happens to be, so that we don't capture them in our future crime net. All right, so we need to determine how we handle those false positives. So let's start to settle in a bit before we get too deep into our discussion. I have a favor to ask. I very much intend to give you a tour of Azure Sentinel today by highlighting the various areas in relation to how they would be used every day. But to get the perfect effect here, do something for me. Imagine yourself in the role of the Azure Sentinel Analyst. Okay, let's pretend for our time together today that I am the script writer and possibly even the director, but you're the star, okay? Even if this is the first time you've ever seen the Azure Sentinel console, an experienced security person will absolutely understand the topics and concepts that I'm discussing here. You've likely played this role many times. Okay? Whether it's investigative analyst or a hunting analyst, I promise you will grasp every single nuance that we talk about. You have the experience, you have the chops here. Now put yourself in this role as I talk about it today. You are the Azure Sentinel Analyst. Picture yourself doing the things I talk about doing. Doing this will help you understand exactly how Azure Sentinel provides a better, more modern way of doing things, because Azure Sentinel has a way of helping identify gaps in your current methods and security tools. I promise, through getting experience with the product, your current pain points, whether they're already realized or not, will be exposed and satisfied. The other thing that this does for us is that it helps you understand the true time commitment. I can literally talk all day long on any given Azure Sentinel topic or feature, and regularly do so. And in doing so, it makes time less relative. It may take me an hour to talk through something like hunting operations in Azure Sentinel, but in real terms, in real time, the effort takes less than 5 minutes. Okay? Understand that there's a lot of efficiency built into Azure Sentinel to enable security teams to function better and do more in less time. Again, putting yourself in this role, picture yourself doing these things yourself, right? Will expose the true time measure for our activities. All right? So let's do this together. So, triage is the first step in our Security Operations Center workflow. Okay, remember that? So let's apply Azure Sentinel features and techniques to this step. So here's our task that we want to talk through in our first scene in our TV show or movie. All right? First, we want to dig in and understand the situation by using the power and value of the incident overview pane in Azure Sentinel. Then we want to provide additional context for our investigation using some simple and powerful automation. Then, determine if the user has a habit of performing the same or a similar function to help serve up a level of comfort through the additional context. Have they done this before? Let's figure out how we do that. Use the graphical component of Azure Sentinel to expose some of the additional details of the occurrence. Let's get a storyline view of this activity, okay? Not just alerts. Let's figure out how all of this happened. All right? Then we want to manage our piece of the life cycle of the incident. And then finally, wrap up our triage, providing some necessary context before moving to the next phase, which is the investigation phase. We want to be good stewards for security for our environment, okay, but also good teammates. So let's add our own comments along the way. Let's document everything that we've done to ensure the next phase, the analyst doesn't have to start from scratch. And at that point in our investigation should be rolling, okay? So quiet on the set. All right, here we go, jumping into action. So just jumping directly into the Azure Sentinel console, we can see that we definitely have activity that needs to be reviewed and addressed. Okay, see that? We see alerts and events that have been wrapped into official incidents that need our attention. Here's where the incident blade is located in Azure Sentinel. See that on the far left in the threat management section of the console. When analytics rules run based on the configuration of the logic or our KQL query that's been developed to expose potential security events, based on that, the defined schedule and our desired threshold, an incident will be created in the system. Incidents are buckets of delicious goodness. You know, what's our motivation here? It sounds pretty good, or at least they should be, to tell us a bit of valuable information about the event. Things like who did it, where they connected from or to, IP addresses, of course, URLs that may have been clicked, host names or computers or devices that were used during the event, and potentially file hashes. Okay. For our example here, or what we'll be using as our example throughout most of this discussion, is an incident generated that tracks when Cloud Shell was run and who executed it. Remember, PowerShell or Cloud Shell, okay, is a powerful and a valuable management tool, but most organizations have restrictions on who can execute the scripts. Obviously. Okay? But threat actors regularly utilize PowerShell to push their nefarious purposes and then attempt to cover up their trail. So we want to know when these types of scripts have been run, no matter who did it. Okay? So now that we've found something of interest, let's go into the full details of the incident to learn about the actual event. All right? Let's try to get a good understanding of exactly what happened and who did it. Notice that on the right-hand side of the console, we have the overview pane. Okay, so the triage analyst can quickly get an understanding of the various incidents in a list as each one of these is selected. So let's dig into the full details for this incident for a minute. With our analyst's eyes, remember, you're the star here. Let's dig in and discover what you think might be important to capture as we build evidence around this activity. Okay, I'm going to direct you here and walk through some things I see as the director or script writer, but feel free to scan the page to see if you can find things that I may miss. Okay? We see in the overview pane, we have this incident description. The overview pane carries over with us into the full incident details, and now we can start to see a bit more of exactly what has transpired. Let's take a look at some of our preliminary evidence. We can see the artifacts associated with this incident. We have an alert. It was generated, just one, mind you, so it doesn't seem like we're overcome by a critical situation here yet. We have one event. Again, if there were more events and more alerts associated here, that would be a slight indication that we have an ongoing problem and we may need to give this incident a more critical approach. We don't, so good. We don't have bookmarks. We'll get to utilizing bookmarks in the investigation phase just a little bit later, okay? Excellent. We also have entities associated with this incident. Entities are so important for our investigations. Without knowing who did it or were they connected from or to, we would have very little to go on. Okay? Imagine a police chief slapping an investigation folder on the TV detective's desk. The detective opens it up to find nothing inside. No suspect to antagonize, no phone number or no location to begin investigating, literally no evidence. You can just imagine how quickly that investigation would turn into a cold case. In our security world, zero evidence is absolutely unacceptable. Okay, so what has been associated with this incident? What do we see here? We have one account, whoever this happens to be here, and one IP address. So a suspect, a phone number, we have a person of interest and a way to contact them. So as the actor in our story, this is your motivation. We see a clear picture of the activity, okay? The crime scene, if you will, and now we also have someone to interview and a way to contact them, okay? But we need a little bit more. Let's begin, all right? We have the suspect and the phone number, but more context about this occurrence would absolutely be helpful. The more context we have, the evidence we can gather, the more understanding of the entities involved, the quicker we can understand what happened and hopefully close out this case efficiently and in good order. So let's delve into the IP address first. Is this a good IP address or a bad one? Has it been reported through a third-party security service, or could it be that we've identified a new culprit? Here's a great way to use Azure Sentinel playbooks to accomplish this. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, click the playbooks link, okay? In my list of playbooks, as you can see, I have one that takes the IP address that's associated with the incident and submits it to a third-party API to return the geolocation of this IP address. That's important information. Again, we're trying to determine if this is a trustworthy IP address or not. Even though we can do this manually, we can copy this IP address, paste it into a third-party website, get the results. Why not use the power of Azure Sentinel to do it for us? All without ever leaving the comfort of the console. Understand that this list of playbooks are from my list in my console. Your list in your console will vary based on the actions you feel that you need to take. Your list will contain the automation that you've created. All right? So here in my example, these are the things I've determined that are valuable for my operations and my investigations within Azure Sentinel. Okay? Want new playbooks? Don't want to start from scratch? You can find a huge number of ready-made playbooks in our GitHub repository. This is the short link for it. Okay? Additionally, remember we have another entity to work with, right? We have the gold standard of all entities, the user account, or let's say our suspect in our movie or a TV show. And truly, doesn't security really just boil down to tracking end-user habits or bad end-user habits, if you put it that way, right? Or literally the bad things that our users do, right? This playbook takes the user account, in our case, for this incident, the full email address, and submits it to the Have I Been Pwned service. Troy Hunt, good friend of mine, invented and now operates and maintains the Have I Been Pwned service. This service tracks user accounts that have been compromised through theft from online services. Of course, none of our users would ever use their work account for an online service, right? No, our users don't do that. Or for something like dating or online bidding or snagging the latest GameStop stock or something, right? Of course not. Our users would never do that. But we still have to do the due diligence just in case, all right? Have I Been Pwned has an API that we can submit the user account to and have it report back to us if the user account has been compromised online or not. And we can do all of this from within the comfort of our Azure Sentinel console, right? If you're interested in this particular playbook is available from our GitHub repository, okay? Once again, let's take a quick look under the covers for one of the playbooks, okay? This one is for submitting the IP address to ip-api.com, which is what we initiated first. Playbooks are based on Logic Apps. If you're not familiar, the Logic App service provides a graphical interface for developing logical steps for automation. It's a no-code, mostly no-code service. The amount and types of automation you can create is endless and literally up to your own creativity. If you can think of it, Logic Apps can probably do it, can probably automate it. For our purposes here, we're getting the incident information, okay? Then we're submitting the IP address to ip-api.com, okay? Then we're parsing the return value from the API. And then, based on that, we're writing the contents to the incident's content section, all right? Let's take a look at what just transpired using our playbooks and then move on in our triage process, okay? So both playbooks ran and found that neither the email address or the IP address are suspicious, okay? You see that in the comments? You can see the comments were added to the investigation for additional context of the event, okay? We can now also change the severity if we want to, change the incident to active, and assign it potentially to another analyst, right? Maybe the extent of our job is triage, and we have others on our team with other skill sets to deliver the rest of our investigation. Or depending on the size of our team or how our responsibilities are designated, we may be the individual, that person responsible for carrying out this through to the next steps, okay? So we can either assign it to a colleague or assign it to ourselves and just simply begin the investigative process, okay? We have some additional capabilities built in Azure Sentinel that allow for even more context building, okay? One of those, called entity behavior, is easily accessible from the incident by clicking on the user account activity, okay? Clicking on the user account entity takes us directly to the entity behavior feature in Azure Sentinel. This page allows us to dig a bit deeper into the history of this particular user, okay? We know already, using our playbook, that the user account has not been compromised externally, but should this user be able to execute Cloud Shell again? Again, that's our primary function here. Should they have access to it? How can we tell? Entity behavior allows us to go back through the history of the user's actions, okay? I'm selecting here the last 30 days of the user activity so I can clearly see what has gone on for this individual, right? So we can see in the alerts and activities timeline what this user has actually done over a period of time, okay? So now let's move just a little bit further. As part of this process, let's use another feature of Azure Sentinel, what we call the investigation graph, to get even deeper understanding of how this user and the activity of this user and the activities that they have performed, okay? See the investigate button on the bottom left of the screen? We'll click that to cause Azure Sentinel to create a graphical representation of this incident or a storyline, okay? Here's our investigation graph. We can use this to identify a few additional items that will be used for our investigation. We see this account has been part of more than a few investigations over recent memory. See that Shalom person? Also been a part of a lot of incidents involving Cloud Shell and brute force attack. And based on the timeline of events that is auto-generated, it looks like this individual might be part of one of our security teams potentially. All right. Before we close out our triage step, let's take some time to document our findings. The findings that we supply here will be useful for the next analyst to take up this investigation or be available for us should we need to come back to it later and we need to remember what has been done so far. Or even better, After we fully investigate and respond, this information will be available in the history of this investigation and types of investigations like it. So we can use our accumulated knowledge to help us work better and more efficiently in the future. Okay? So cut. All right, there's our scene. Okay, relax. All right, everybody feel good about that scene. Any retakes, of course, you'll have to come back for the webinar replay link. Okay, but remember, film schedule is a little tight today. So let's move on to phase 3, or scene 2 of our script. Okay? Next step in our SOC workflow is the investigation phase. Let's use this step to look deeper into the exposed security event. Okay, let's look at how we'll do that. We'll first use a workbook and focus on some visualizations of the data. Next, we're going to drill down to the raw events through search using KQL, our Custo query language. This fantastic, well-performing cloud design query language, absolutely one of my favorite things. Don't get me started here because I could literally talk about KQL just by itself. All right, we're focused on Azure Sentinel today. Once we find something, let's document it and set up our investigation task lists using bookmarks. All right, everyone ready? Next scene, action. All right. So the next step in our SOC workflow is the investigation phase. Okay, let's use this step to look deeper into the exposed security event. Let's look at how we'll do that. All right, we'll first use a workbook, and focus on some visualizations of the data. Next, we'll drill down to the raw events through search using KQL, that Custo query language. Okay, and then once we find it, we're going to do this, right? Remember that? All right, so this is a workbook that's included in Azure Sentinel. This one is for user and entity behavior analysis. This is going to allow us to dig a bit deeper into those areas from our incident that may need more context. Specifically, this allows us to view the information about our suspect in a visual and more meaningful way. Okay, let's dig into what's available here. By selecting our suspect in the workbook, okay, the data is automatically adjusted to show what we're looking to derive from that data. Okay, see that? I can get a better understanding of exactly what our suspect has attempted in our environment within this specific time range. See that? All right. This, here in this slide, is another workbook that's available. Okay. This one, the user map, can be deployed from our GitHub repository, again, the aka.ms/asgithub, and aptly is located in the workbooks folder. All right. So just like before, let's focus back in our suspect. Let's select this person and capture some additional information about this individual. Okay? By adjusting to our person of interest, the dynamic capability of our workbook helps us to hone in directly where this person is connecting from the map based on the latitude and longitude of that IP address. It would appear that this person's connection is not out of the ordinary. We know through our internal means that this person works from home, and that's the location where this person generally connects from. We're starting to feel pretty good about this situation, but there's more to it. Okay? We have more to do. There's more check boxes to check, and we haven't even gone into the big scene-stealing finale yet. All right? So let's move on. Let's use the power of KQL, our query language for Azure Sentinel and other data-centric services in Azure. Okay? Using the standard search command, let's see if we can figure out more about this individual if this person exists in our tables. Understanding all of this individual's actions might lead to a different response or even an alternate theory about exactly what happened. Here, for my example, I'm searching for myself, searching for Rod Trent, but I'm also using the distinct command to show me exactly the data sources in which Rod exists. All right? Knowing the data source or table that's attributed to Rod's actions allows me to quickly identify other things that Rod may or may not have done in our environment. Okay, this is an awesome additional context to include in our investigation. One thing that stands out to me here, okay, in these query results is that Rod has one of our corporate devices. It's possible, okay, some of his actions in our environment can be attributed to a specific device. Is that device compliant? Is Rod using a device that is secure? Fortunately, we have our Intune environment logs connected to Azure Sentinel so we can dig into this data. Okay. Now that we know that Rod is connecting to our network using an Intune managed device, let's tune our query a bit to get more specific information. All right. So you can see in my query, in my second query here, I'm tuning into the Intune devices table, no pun intended, or maybe it was. And based on the results of the new query, we know a little more about the device that Rod was using to connect to our network. Okay. Once we have those results, let's create a bookmark in the system so we can either come back later to investigate deeper, or in our case study today, we'll use it to add even more additional context to the open incident. Now that we have a bookmark created and knowing that there's an open incident against Rod's recent activity, let's use the results of our KQL query to add even more valuable context to our investigation. On the Bookmarks tab, locate the newly created bookmark and choose to add it to an existing incident. Locate our open incident in the list and confirm your intention by clicking the Add button. Okay. Now that we have a bookmark created, all right, let's add it in. Okay, so almost full circle here. Here's the same screen that we saw earlier. But now you can see in the incident itself, a bookmark is now associated with the incident and attached as part of the investigation. The bookmark is an awesome way to attach your findings, which leads to additional context, which leads to the ability to close out cases more quickly. And as you can see from our efforts, we're being rewarded in that we now have information about the device Rod was using in addition to everything else that's listed here. It's been collected as part of the Azure Sentinel processes. So we have a suspect, we have a phone number, and now we have a place of residence or where they connected from. Okay. Summing up what we've done so far, we triaged an incident, determined that the user account seemed innocuous, decided it still needed longer-term analysis, moved it to an investigation, investigated through workbooks, and decided it was logging from Microsoft sources on a compliant device, and if you'll agree with me, is potentially a non-issue. But this is not the end of the game. We need to also figure out how, even if it's not an issue, we still have to respond in a specific way. All right? All right. That's the end of that scene. All right. Take a breather. Take a little break. Take a sip of a beverage if you'd like, which I am. Okay. On to the next phase. How will we respond to this based on what we know and what we know now? Before we dig too deep into actual response, let's double check our work. Okay, let's confirm that our efforts are sound, our theory is complete, that this is not an ongoing active threat, and that this occurrence is truly a one-off. How do we do that? To accomplish this specific test, we take advantage of Azure Sentinel's live stream technology. Okay. Then after we check our work, let's see what one scenario might lead us to using a playbook to actually block the user, just in case. Let's make our operation smarter based on our investigations. Let's see about adding this Trent guy to our trusted list of individuals. Okay. And then finally, let's close out this incident so we can move on to other incidents or other security operations that are part of our daily workflow. Okay, let's do it. Back into the scene. All right, everybody ready? On to the next phase. How will we respond? Okay, let's use Azure Sentinel's live stream capability to determine whether or not that this thing that we're investigating is still active or potentially a continuing and ongoing situation. Okay, pretend for a minute that this is a situation where we've identified a compromised account. We've identified it because there has been a significant number of unsuccessful logins made within a very short time frame, right? Very short period of time. By taking a hunting query we've designed to expose this and sending it to the live stream capability, it forces the query to run every single minute until we either pause it, stop it, or delete it. Okay? If there are increments and results for that query when it runs, we will be notified. In fact, live stream alerting is built into the general alerting system for the Azure portal. Right? As long as you have that portal window open in the browser, you could be somewhere else working in some other Azure service doing something else in the browser in another tab. The alerting system will notify you that there are new results, right? Telling you that this is still an active event. Awesome efficiency capability here. right? Allow the system to do the work for you while you head off to do other things. If, again, now we're talking about a compromised account, the situation is active, we can do something about that using automation. In our new case about a compromised account, the best scenario would be to lock out the account's ability to log in, right? You agree with me? As a security person, you probably know the way that I do, that even if for a second that suspect, that an account has been compromised, you're going to take away its ability to connect to your network. Your job and your responsibility is to the entire environment. One compromised account can lead very quickly to several compromised accounts and services, and then an entire environment that is compromised, right? We don't want to do that. Don't take chances. Doesn't matter whose account it happens to be, lock it out. There's a whole soapbox moment there that I'm going to try to avoid. All right. There's a playbook on our GitHub repository that you can use straight after deployment to your environment that literally does one thing. It locks out accounts associated with an Azure Sentinel incident entity list. All right, very useful. I use this all the time. Okay. Lastly, let's create a mechanism to make sure the alert doesn't get created again because we have identified that it has nothing to worry about. All right, it's nothing to worry about. Let's create a watch list. There's two ways to create a watch list for Azure Sentinel. All right, the first way is what's shown here. I want you to know that this is available. It's not a best practice, but you can use this method. Using an external operator for KQL, we can maintain and store a CSV file in blob storage. The beauty of this solution is that you can give access to the stored CSV file to non-security team members, so they can maintain this list. One good example of this would be this type of watch list is if the HR department needs to maintain a list of protective individuals based on needing limited access to private data or something like that, right? So what this method does is this, okay? You add a line to the beginning of the KQL query in your analytics rule, right? It's just looking for external data. This is not just a list of usernames, but you can have risk level, location, you can have all kinds of stuff in here, right? Because we are pulling this data in from an external location, it's stored there, we're just using the data. So this is more than just whitelisting information that you can use here, but you can use this to just literally write smarter detection rules. It's absolutely amazing. You can use that short link there, aka.ms/sentinel lookups, to get the full instructions on how to use this method. Okay. We also now have watchlist capability built into the Azure Sentinel user interface. This method is more integrated with Azure Sentinel and is a result of customer request. The data for each watchlist is stored in the same data store as the data we're analyzing for security purposes. So this allows us to quickly use the watchlist data without working with external information, okay? And it gives a much better capability by allowing us to feed new watchlist items directly from our investigations, okay? Similar to the previous method, we simply add a line to the beginning of the KQL query for the analytics rule to take immediate advantage of this curated information, okay? Watchlists are awesome, and we really allow you to take advantage of Azure Sentinel's environment's intelligence to the next level, right? With the watch list feature, you can import and maintain your own lists within the console and easily use that data that is provided in your custom list. If you're interested, there's a short link here on this slide to a blog post about how to work with this, okay? So you can take a look at that as well. This feature, this watch list feature, is 100% complete and available and officially delivered in Azure Sentinel. So there's already some additional automated capability being provided around this. We've talked about the playbooks already. Here's some more capability of this. If you visit the playbooks folder in our Azure Sentinel GitHub repository today, there's a few playbooks available already that will take the goodness of our evidence buckets, those incidents, right, and generate those lists of trusted objects for you. We saw two users today in our work as an analyst, that Shaylone and this Trent. If we determine that they're trusted individuals, you can run this playbook on each one of those and it will automatically add them to the watch list for us, right? So if we utilize this as part of that workflow today, I'd simply just need to execute the add user to watch list playbook, and both Rod and Shaylone would be added to our trusted list automatically. Absolutely cool. Built for efficiency. Okay. So lastly, As part of our thorough investigation, let's close out this incident, okay? In this case, this Cloud Shell execution rod has been identified as a person who has appropriate access and capability to run Cloud Shell. He connected from a compliant device, remember that? And used an IP address that was deemed acceptable. We determined that he's run Cloud Shell before, actually multiple times. We've added Rod to our trusted list. We have one more thing to do to ensure Rod doesn't get caught up in this particular alert next time. But before we do that, let's close out this incident, and let's close it out appropriately. You have several options you can use to detail why incident is being closed. In our case, we're going to choose benign positive or suspicious but expected. We still want to continue to be notified when Cloud Shell is running our environment. But in this instance, it was investigated and reported to be okay. All right? So cut. Take a quick little breather. All right? We have a couple other things to get through. But our scene is over. Thank you so much for playing the part. You did a great job. Okay? Okay, so the last piece of this is not necessarily something that will be done every single day, but it is something that needs to be considered for every single investigation. How can we make our tool, Azure Sentinel, work better and more intelligent in the future? Particularly for this specific occurrence about Cloud Shell execution. All right? We've added Rod to our trusted list and a watch list. You saw that. But now we must do something to our original analytics rule so that it is capable of logically separating trusted individuals from those we are still prohibiting from being able to perform this action. All right? So we've done a lot of things manually today. Let's improve from an efficiency standpoint so that the next time that this analytics rule runs, it's not going to catch Rod or it's not going to catch Shalom. All right? We've added them to the watch list, but that's not the end of it. We have to do something else. All right? So places, people. Okay? Action. This is the big finale. This is the big scene. All right? Let's evolve the intelligence of our Security Operations Center. Here's one way to do that. That is part of this workflow that we were working through during the session today. On the overview pane of each incident is a link that takes us directly to the analytics rule. Right? The one that generated the incident. Click on that link, drop into the original analytics rule, and let's adjust it so that it works differently and better next time. So that it includes some automation to help minimize our efforts next time and help shorten the time to triage and investigate even further. Okay? In our example here, we're adding information about our watch list that now includes Rod. Remember that? We added Rod. He's now a trusted individual. So next time this runs, it won't report on Rod, but it will report on anyone else that we don't trust to run Cloud Shell. All right? But there's also some other things we can do to help build better intelligence. We can identify any additional entities we want to capture next time. Okay? Including Rod's compliant device would be helpful information. Maybe we want to include that next time. Maybe we want to include it every time. We can adjust that here in our KQL query logic in the entity section. All right? We can adjust how often we're notified and how often the analytics rules this analytics rule runs. Okay? We can adjust how alerts are grouped and if the analytics rule should wait until we've had time to investigate, helping eliminate additional noise in the system and giving our security team enough time to triage critical events. Remember how we used those specific playbooks to add investigative context for the IP address and user account? Remember that early on? We ran those manually, right? That was some awesome information. Why not? Next time, those tidbits of information are supplied in the incident automatically. Here we'll just add them to the incident and we'll never have to run them again manually. Pretty cool, right? All right, that's a wrap. One thing I think important to highlight here is that we've talked through a very specific use case, the Cloud Shell activity toward the end, because Azure Sentinel allows you to connect data from anywhere, again, on-premises, Microsoft services, other clouds, hybrid environments. Your own use cases are literally up to you. You can effectively monitor and alert on any scenario, right, based on any threat intel. Okay? Just want to kind of highlight this before we move on. We talked about this process all the way from triage to investigation and handling false positives. But this is the list of things that I believe from an efficiency standpoint, this is something that security team members need to do every day. Okay? Daily must-dos for any type of security analyst. Whether you're using a competing product, Azure Sentinel, or another type of security tool, these are the things that must be done every day. Okay? If you're using Azure Sentinel, we make these things really easy. If you're using something other than Azure Sentinel, it's probably going to take you all day, maybe a couple days to accomplish this list, right? So we've gone through the investigation lifecycle already. You saw how easy it was. It's taken me a long time to talk through this, but this literally takes a few clicks. If you count the number of clicks that we did as part of operations, it was very few, right? So we looked at incidents, we looked through the entities, we added that context, we used some workbooks to look at the visualizations. We didn't talk about hunting, but we make that extremely easy within Azure Sentinel as well. And then evolving the security operations. We've just talked about one aspect of evolving security operations as part of this tool. There's, in my mind, I can think right now about 10 or 12 different ways that we could walk through that for even further evolution of the security operations so that your tool is always as intelligent as you need it to be based on your operations and your security team. Okay? These are the things that must be done. Again, within Azure Sentinel, we make these things absolutely easy. A lot of times it's just a couple clicks. So to finish off, all right, while you prepare your questions to submit to me later on, again, I want to remind you, when I talk through today in real time, it took let's say about 15 minutes or less. And that's all because of how Azure Sentinel is built and architected, okay? And in the future, because we modified the analytics rule to shorten our direct involvement, we automated some stuff. It will take even less time next time, okay? There's so much more to this product, so much value that I haven't even had the time and opportunity to talk about today. If this is your first experience with Azure Sentinel, don't let it stop here. Let this be only your first stop. I invite you to take advantage of the Azure Sentinel trial period. Azure Sentinel can be enabled at no additional cost on any Azure Monitor Log Analytics workspace for the first 31 days. Try it out. Use that time to reach out to your Microsoft rep to ask for an Azure Sentinel workshop. Or, we have a fantastic group of partners. And that partner list is growing by leaps and bounds. These partners would absolutely love to help you implement Azure Sentinel. There's a link to get to our primary Azure Sentinel page. Additionally, take advantage of our Azure Sentinel offer that is still open until November, and I heard rumors today that we're going to expand it even further. You can see that here on the top screen to the left. And please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on Twitter. Again, this product absolutely excites me. I've been working with this product for like 2 years, and I'm still excited by this product. Our customers love it. You'll love it too. So thank you again for your attendance today. Don't forget to send me any questions you might have. Okay, I'm always available and always happy to talk about Azure Sentinel and how it can be used to secure your environment. Some additional resources down there. There's that GitHub repository where you can find all kinds of Azure Sentinel goodness. We have our blogs. We have some community areas in some of the social networks. There's also a Azure Sentinel newsletter that delivers every Friday, and it's a community newsletter. There's a lot of great content in that. Check that out as well. I didn't include a link here, but if you're interested in that, please, again, reach out to me and ask me how to get to that. All right? Thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for playing the role of Azure Sentinel Analyst today. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.